All right, so a little bit about incident response. I think it's been a while. I think it was on a Tuesday. Um, I was putting in a lot of work on this large implementation I was doing, basically helping for Orth ISD, connect all their sites, roll out a whole bunch of servers. Um, and My wife reminded me earlier in the day that I promised to mow the grass. I think for about 3 weeks I promised to mow the grass, and rain was coming, not unlike today. Rain was coming, so I rushed through all my tasks at work. I bolted home around 4 o'clock, got there in time to fire up the mower, feed my horrible allergies. I mean, mow the grass and go through everything. As usual, once I mow the grass, I always jump in the pool to kind of wash off all the nastiness. And then I kind of roamed inside and checked my phone. I had like 15 messages. Um, the storm said had kind of come through a little bit, and I started listening to the messages, and they range from where are you? Are you safe? Where's David? What do we do? Where do we start? Things like that. And of course, I'm referring to the Fort Worth tornado of 2000. But what I wanted to do is just kind of help you understand that's always how major incidents start. It's always a frenzy. And if you get a chance, make sure you ask David, his side of the story, what he was doing during the tornado. But I just kind of wanted to help start you off with a little bit of incident response and kind of the whole structure behind incident response. Here's kind of the roadmap that I have for the conversation. We're going to be a little bit tight on time, so I promise I won't read from the slides. Just if you guys would make sure that we keep this kind of an open conversation. So use chat, or note content you think is valuable, or ask any questions. I believe that we plan to send a PDF version of the presentation. So if you're taking notes, I'd just say worry less about the stuff on the slides, and just any comment nuggets that you find. And obviously we're recording as well. I will say that none of the information I'm including should be considered legal advice, since I'm not an attorney. Although, if you noticed my intro slide, I am a fake doctor. So, I do have that going for me. But really, it's just information after 25 years plus in cybersecurity. But for anything, especially incident response related, you'll want to make sure and consult your city council or attorney. If you have cyber insurance, then you may have specialized access to a breach specialized attorney for those kinds of things. So going into the why of things, why cyber insurance? I guess before we get started, let me do this kind of ad hoc poll. If you're excited about writing your incident response plan, just throw a quick number 2 in the chat for me. Just want to see who all my fired up people are. I don't see a lot of 2s coming in. David or Jeremy, can you check and make sure, see if there's any 2s coming in?
We've got a 0.
Okay, all right. All right, perfect. Now, if you haven't started your incident response plan, then let's go ahead and put in a 3. Any 3s
William
there?
Spell has a 3.
Okay, all right, that's good. If you're done, and or I'm sorry, if you have started, how about throwing in a 4? Just trying to get a sense of where the audience is in their incident response journey.
Got a 4 from Kevin, Ben Bray, Wes Cooper.
Okay, awesome. Now, if you're done with your incident response plan and just focused on regular updates, go ahead and throw a 5 in there.
Tamara and Kevin both have a 5.
Awesome. Excellent. All right, so this kind of ends the presentation. Just reach out to the guys who put 5s in there, ask them for a copy of their incident response plan, and we should be good to go. Is that all you needed today, David, Jeremy?
That'll work.
Sorry, Simon Sinek was one of my favorite authors. He wrote this book called Start with Why. And it's just about how to inspire leaders to action, and running your incident response team kind of requires that. I kind of listed there some possible reasons why the plan might be important, and you can kind of see from my graphics that it's not just technology related stuff, but all the time, especially cities and rural areas, power is an issue. Every time bad weather comes through, that's an issue. And getting your team together is not just understanding what it means for you as a person who's writing the plan, but helping understand, maybe you're not the MIS director. Maybe you're the city manager or council. So you've got to understand, why is this important to my MIS director? Well, I'm trying to help him understand how to limit the impact during an incident, and trying to help him from having to avoid working long hours. If you're trying to pitch it to the council or get budget, then obviously bring in name and reputation into it, or reasons it's important to them. If you're the IT manager and you're having to work with a finance director, just helping them understand that, with an incident response plan, you limit your risk and lower the cost of response to things that come up. Uh, maybe it helps save on cyber insurance costs because you've got these additional elements in place to kind of help out. And for coordinating with your city attorney, maybe it's just compliance, with CGIS or risk in general. The thing is that incidents are not just an IT problem. It's something that impacts the entire organization. And before I get too far, I did want to just kind of clarify on some terms here. Just real quick, that there's always security incidents or IT incidents that are happening. All day long, things are happening on your network. And so part of the incident response plan is, before you actually get to the point of there being some sort of an incident, understanding what your on-call path is, or how you handle those things that come up. If you have a single individual, they may have the entire process, but it's still good to have that written down, because in the heat of the moment, how you respond to particular kinds of incidents, maybe it's a security incident that's a ransomware attack. That's going to be a little bit different of how you would respond to something that's a basic phishing incident or a clicked link. So, the diagnostic process, gathering facts and details, those are very important. If there were an actual, if there was an actual, incident, or even if it got down to there was an actual data breach, then you're going to want to make sure that you've documented along the way all those different things that you've done and tried and things, and specific language is very important. In our organization, only David or myself can declare that there was actually a security incident, or heaven forbid, a breach. But that's because I want to make sure that our guys gather just a little bit of information, and then through our cyber insurance, if something accelerated beyond just an event to an actual incident, then we'd bring in our cyber insurance provider, who also provides forensics for some kind of incident that would happen. So, making sure you understand the language, making sure you understand the steps are, big parts of how you go through developing your incident response plan. Now, here's kind of the, some of the things that go along with it. They say that the hardest part in learning to ride a bike is the pavement. Well, the hardest part of getting your project going is just getting started. I think that you can see from some of the components here, like assembling your team, but generically, I mean, when I say getting started, I mean setting a target date for completion. When do you, it's easy to, in IT, it's easy in, incident response to say, I'm going to do these things, and it just never quite happened. When I first started working our incident response plan, it was on the drawing board for 4 years before I actually tackled it and really got through kind of the first one. So the most important thing is getting started. Set a target date for your completion, work backward and kind of estimate, how much time is going to be needed, how many hours, what are the various steps. Make sure you've got someone who's qualified to be able to do it, and just having a rhythm to how you follow up and make things going. If you're that one person team, then, just focus on one part at a time. That's kind of how I ended up tackling ours, was our internal incident response plan was focusing on one particular part at a time and getting through it around all the other emergencies and the tyranny of the immediate, all the other things that I have going on throughout a typical week. And just keep in mind, you might be able to involve some third parties. I believe David made mention to Ryan Burns and the TML. I believe risk pool members, he makes available some generic incident response plans and even some policies. I believe I saw acceptable use, bring your own device, and so forth, kinds of things. So if you're one of those people who only did a 2 or 3 and need to get going on your plan, feel free to reach out to them and get access to some of those things. The great thing about an incident response plan is it's not going to be perfect. You're going to revise it over time. You're going to keep building on it. Things are going to keep changing. So you don't have to be perfect or right. You just need to get started and get going. And so, here's kind of some of the steps along the way. I did talk about, building your team. So for that, you want to identify the different roles needed for your team. I'm going to show you just kind of a quick excerpt from ours in a couple of slides, and just kind of show you how we went through and did that on ours. But the templates that you might get will have examples and help you kind of walk through those kinds of things. On ours, I think I included stuff like our insurance provider, all of their information. You don't want to be tracking that down during an incident. All of our internal contacts. As an organization that uses a lot of cloud vendors and those kinds of things, making sure I had all their technical contact information and who to call. We have a 24/7 cyber SOC that monitors all of our stuff. So, tracking down specifics for them and putting it into the document, but just making sure that I had all of those things together in one spot so that if something did come up, if it was me that was here, if it was David, if it was one of the other people on our team, then, they would have all that information together in one spot of, what to do. For you and your organization, it could be also that you develop not just the call path like we do for us, but maybe you've got stuff for your end users. Do they know who to call if they notice something odd on their network? They'll probably call you, but will they gather the right information? Will they automatically try to reboot without contacting you first? Those are some of the things that you might want to specify or clarify for your end users as part of the forensics. Usually it's a better idea to disconnect it from the network, unplug a network cable, and leave what's ever in resident memory, because it could be that on a reboot that information goes away and hampers your efforts for forensics. But whatever you do, you're going to need to make sure and train your team. Your team could be your end users, your team could be other people on your incident response team, or your team could be third parties who you've invited to your team. And so, there's going to be some training involved with that. Now, that's not true if you're Chuck Norris, because Chuck Norris, he once won a team building exercise by himself. I don't know if you guys knew that. I think one time I read that Chuck Norris responded to an incident before it even happened. That's how good Chuck Norris is. Really, no. Okay, one more Chuck Norris joke. Chuck Norris doesn't have an incident response plan. Incidents have a Chuck Norris response plan. Now, when you involve your third parties, David talked a little bit about the importance of Microsoft 365, and this slide is just kind of helping understand a little bit about everyone's responsibility. Microsoft talks a lot about their shared responsibility model. Whatever team you've got, there's risk and rewards. There's with your IT, all your vendors sharing their risk, but they also limit their risk. And so here's just kind of an example from Microsoft's point of view. Each of your vendors, who provide some sort of service to you or have some sort of cloud offering, they've got their own model, but just as an example, so you can kind of compare to what your vendors do. Microsoft basically is saying here, hey, I'll give you the foundation for the information. I think David used the term, they're providing availability on stuff. But IT or your MSP's responsibility is partly the configuration. They've got to know, or you've got to make sure that you're setting it up and configure against best practices. out of the box, Microsoft doesn't enable all security capabilities because some of those things could cause issues. So, still on your team to make sure that things get backed up. Cities have to use the tool right and protect their passwords and not click links. Those are some of the things that are all on your MSP and your organization. In the end, you kind of have to make all the decisions that are right, do the security investments, the training, the policy development, all of those kinds of things, even when, some of the risk responsibility is in the cloud. And of course, cyber insurance has their own role to play there. They're there to kind of handle some of the responsibility for all the things that fall through the other cracks, but that's why they ask you on their survey, what's your compliance with certain areas? What, do you have MFA? Do you do simulated phishing? All of those kinds of things are to help them understand the risk factor by working with you. And the more things that you have in place, obviously the better. But also, if you say you've got something in place and it turns out that you don't, and that leads to something happening, then obviously cyber insurance isn't going to be able to cover you for some of those kinds of things. The good news is you've got a team, you've got a whole bunch of people to help you out with it. But with incident response, you're kind of making sure the rubber meets the road and helping work through who's got what and that long chain of responsibilities. Here's kind of a snippet from our team. You can kind of see, I act as a security officer for our organization. I think Jeremy mentioned, I'm a longtime CISSP, almost 20 years now. I think there may have been a lot less security when I first got started, but I have to maintain a lot of CPE, 40 CPE each year to maintain my certification. But here's kind of some of the different roles that we have in our organization to handle our incident response. You can kind of see here that I reference Arctic Wolf, our vendor for monitoring all of our, our firewall and our Office 365 tenant. It's got details for them on my further above in my list of contacts. But you can kind of see there I've itemized out kind of the different things that these particular roles are responsible for. Now, putting together your prep work, there's a lot of things that go into, your incident response plan. You can kind of see from the graphic, these are some of the kinds of things, obviously your risk assessment, business impact analysis, those are considered to be left of boom, before an incident kinds of efforts. But I like to think of the incident response plan it's kind of like a little paper baby that comes out of all the different things that you've got going on. So when you do your incident, that helps you identify what bits of data are your critical, where your critical data repositories are. What's my most important information. When you do your business impact analysis, it might help you understand, okay, that's my data. Which of my critical assets are associated with that data? What are my critical workflows, and what kinds of things do I need to protect against? In David's presentation, he kind of showed you some of the different threats that come from that target cities. The great thing about the DBIR is from Verizon is it helps you understand some of those things that target public sector. Uh, other things, that you want to know for putting together your incident response, out of your prep work, having your cyber insurance plan available. Talks about business continuity, identifying your crown jewels and keeping them running. But what's your disaster recovery plan? What are your processes to return you back to normal if there were data lost or some sort of incident that came up? Obviously all your IT policies. Um, if you're in a single organization, you want to make sure that you have some sort of incident tracking documents. If you just Google incident response or documents out there, you'll find sample documents for how you record. Here's what happened. Here's the steps I took. Here's the times that those happened. Here's the log information. All of those kinds of things put together. And then obviously, any procedures, communication plans, if you've got network diagrams, all of those things are big parts of putting together that incident response plan. Here's just kind of David referenced NIST a little bit before. If you work with CGIS, CGIS has some NIST-like things. Here's kind of the 5 pillars of NIST. that you see there, but also took those and just kind of mapped them to some different aspects of your technology and try to identify all the different tools. So I kind of like the cyber defense matrix, just to kind of go in and dig deeper and looking at, hey, how am I kind of protecting all these important parts of my network? Also, as part of our prep work, going through and itemizing, here's kind of, I erased the servers, but here's just kind of a simple checklist of looking at all the servers. Instead of trying to do some sort of complex risk analysis, just classifying them as an A, B, C, or D, and making sure that, on your server list that, hey, all my A's, maybe I'm backing up more often or I have longer retention. My B's a little bit less, my C's less often. The thing is, we all have limited budgets. So, classifying isn't good just for prioritizing recovery, but also the money and efforts that you invest in spending allows you to target those things that have higher value. I know I'm going a little bit quicker trying to get through. As you develop your incident response framework, as some of this is kind of new to you, some of the things that I went back and redid some of ours, I kind of, with the innovation chat GPT, I'm not sure how many of you have accounts, but as an IT person, especially as an individual IT person, I'd highly recommend that you sign up and get an account. If you're putting together processes or checklists or SOPs or any of those kinds of things, chat GPT can be a good help to kind of get you started. You can ask it a question. It'll kind of lay it all out in whatever frame you want. And then you can go in and customize it, whatever specific for your organization. If you ask it a question, but there's something specific about your organization that it doesn't handle, you can ask it a follow-on question, say, hey, can you make sure and incorporate whatever particular technology this happens to be to get additional information. I utilize it myself to go back and redo kind of our action plan for how we go through incidents. You can kind of see here some of the different steps that we go through in our typical action plan, how we go through if there was a particular incident, and the steps that we would go through. Um, some guidelines that you'll get a copy of this in PDF, but here's some of the different items that if there were an incident would be helpful to gather and have together. Just a reminder, if there were an actual attack, one of the first things that attackers do is try and delete logs to prevent forensic efforts. So, make sure that if you do have a firewall, that you're shipping your logs to there. If you've got a domain that you're, putting your event logs into a place where those can be tracked. And I think CJIS actually requires that you retain, what is it? I think you retain audit records for at least 1 year. But anyways, making sure that you're gathering these things, keeping them together should something happen. From DBIR that David mentioned, they actually take a version of the incidents that happen, data breaches that happen, and they focus on just public sector. And so here's kind of some of the different things that come from public sector. I'm not going to go through them other than to share the information with you. And I think that they said that you see social engineering. I think it was something like 59% of the social engineering breaches came from compromised credentials. Or 31% stolen credentials. So that's where, things like MFA and some of the other things that David was talking about, that if you've got limited budget to protect your network, you want to focus on the things that are most prevalent for public sector first, because that's going to help you target those things that are, focusing on the things that are most important or most often. Again, from our particular incident response plan, we put together 5 different attack scenarios that are prevalent in our industry from my research, and I kind of put together kind of a little bit of a threat summary. I tried to identify, specify a little bit more about what each particular attack was. And then you can kind of see over to the right, I kind of talked through some of the different, these are the central pillars of NIST, the protect, detect, respond aspect of them, and kind of talked a little bit about some of the different things that we've got in place to kind of protect against each of those. So in your plan, you're talking about the defenses you have in place, as well as the steps that you go through to defend against those kinds of things. And again, if you're trying to arm your users, you could do something as simple as create checklists for them to call you, or what to do, or how to handle things. Maybe even take a photo showing them how to unplug the network cable from the computer to make sure and leave it running, so that you could do forensics if you're the one-man person. Again, in our plan, identify, protect, detect, respond, recovers the last phase of NIST, whatever your backup methodology happens to be. Sometimes recovery is the only option. From the attendee list, there was a lot of techies, engineers on our call. So, making sure that you're able to do a recovery. I'm sure that if you've deployed your backup, you know how to do a recovery. But in the heat of the moment, in the heat of the moment, do you have exactly all the information that you need? In our incident response plan, we pull together recovery options for all the different ways that we have to do a recovery. That could be your storage snapshots, that could be your actual backups, that could be your OneDrive recycle bin, or shadow copies on file servers, or if you've got QuickBooks, QuickBooks has their own built-in backup. Making sure that you have detailed instructions for all of those when you're doing a recovery, because time is of the essence to return the organization.
Parker?
Sorry. And then testing, unfortunately, there was way too much content to go through to get too far into testing. But typically what you'd want to do is a tabletop exercise, basically validating your incident response plan and making sure that everything that you're trying to do actually would work. It's also a chance to highlight any gaps in the plan and make things better. And basically to prepare your organization for something that would actually happen. When you go through questioning, you're going to want to make sure and ask yourself some debrief questions. I kind of given you guys a list of some of the different questions here, but it's really an opportunity to kind of true up your plan. What needs to be added? What did we miss on? What do we need to improve? And it's it's kind of a little bit of a soul searching, trying to make sure things are right. Not soul searching like my wife does at bedtime, when I'm trying to go to sleep, but, just coaching you through, what are the after action things that you need to do. If you've got a team, it's important not to, blame anyone. The whole point of it is to get better. It's not to catch somebody doing something wrong. And just kind of, in summary here, put your team together. Make sure that you've got your preparatory stuff, from the NIST cybersecurity framework you see here. The things from the identify stage, a lot of those things are going to go into your incident response plan, as well as things from your frameworks. You're able to use your frameworks to kind of help you steer you through understanding more about incident response, and the different steps and the different parties and what they need to do. In your plan, you can work out all the different attack scenarios. I'd highly recommend, instead of trying to cover everything, focusing on the ones that target public sector first. It helps you get more for your money, or more for your time. Organize any of your important recovery procedures, like I mentioned, all your backup, your restoration process. Making sure that you've got all of that. Maybe your encryption keys and other kinds of things that you might need to do a recovery. And I know that kind of went through fast there at the end, but in the end, testing makes your plan better. If you are testing your plan and doing a good job, then it's also going to help you get a better night's sleep, which is something that I struggle with personally. Wait, was that too much? Am I giving too much away? And lastly, just to kind of help you on your journey, I kind of put together some things, some resources that would be particularly helpful. For example, the North Central Technical Council of Governments, they've got like some testing and other stuff. So if you're trying to test your plan, they've got some guidance there for you. State of Texas DIR, they've got some incident response things. You can actually give them a call if you're in an active incident, and they can kind of help you. So if you're a one man IT person and you haven't engaged your insurance yet, you could reach out to them if you had something going on, and make sure you track down those numbers and help you out with stuff. But uh, Microsoft Instant Response Guide was very helpful for me in putting together ours. A lot of good content in there on going through and putting together your plan. And I think that's probably a good stopping point. Uh, any any questions? I know I kind of went through things quickly because we got behind quickly, but um, any questions anyone has that they'd like to ask?
I didn't currently see anything in chat. Kevin had a real good tip about Microsoft and MSSPs being overwhelmed during events that are across multiple industries.
Yeah, I would say that that's true for every third party. I believe there was a Texas vendor who provided systems to cities, and one of their systems got compromised. And so, of course, I think 22 cities were impacted in
Hmm.
Texas. And during that incident, obviously everything was bound up because they're trying to respond to everyone. During Hurricane Katrina, I've got some partner buddies in New Orleans who had contracts for data centers and things if there was an outage for the site. But because it took out those two, basically all their clients were down and they had no recourse because all the facilities were overwhelmed and unable to do that. Every third party, and I think even every organization, when an incident comes up, you're going to be overwhelmed. It's no different than when there's a major issue that impacts all systems. You can't respond to everyone all at once. You're trying to keep up as best you can.